If your agency swings 20 to 30% month to month, you are currently not scaling. You are surviving. And if you are between 20 to 50K per month, this is the most dangerous stage in any business because it looks like actual growth, but in reality, it's structural fragility. You are proven already you can sell, you have signed some clients currently, you can deliver results, and most importantly, you are not an actual beginner. But your revenue still looks like this. So let's say some months you would do 42K, then 27K, then 38K, and then one month you start to panic. Nothing catastrophic happened. There was no market collapse. There was no algorithm change. There was no big failure. Yet you still felt unstable. And that instability is currently what creates pressure on cash, on teams, and most importantly, on you as the actual founder. And here's the most uncomfortable truth. Revenue swings from 20 to 50K are not demand problems. Most of you think it's the actual demand when it's not. They are structural maturity actual problems inside of your business. You don't have currently lead issue. You have pipeline actual blindness, capacity misalignment, and no financial shock absorber inside of your business. And most importantly, founder dependency. And the longer this continues, the harder it actually is to scale your company. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why this stage is really volatile, what you should be actually feeling versus what you are currently feeling, what are the numbers actually currently inside of your business and what they say about your business health, and the structural shifts required to stabilize your revenue before you actually scale. Because stability comes before you can actually scale. And if you don't fix this stage properly, 60K will feel worse than actual 40K. So what I want to do, I want in this video to break everything down for you. So stay till the end of this video, because by end of this video, you will learn and understand, number one, how to identify the real bottlenecks. So you'll learn why systems and processes, not demand, drive those wild revenue swings currently inside of your business. Number two, how to understand the psychology behind your business, right? So you will learn how to recognize emotional traps like founder overload, burnout, imposter syndrome, and what mindset shifts you actually need to break free from those cycles. Number three, how to stabilize demand. So using pipeline frameworks and marketing consistency so your leads don't dry up every single time you are busy inside of your business or you get carried too much away. Number four, how do you plan delivered capacity, which is really important, right? How you track your team's bandwidth and utilization with simple frameworks. We'll be speaking about dashboards and worksheets you can use, which is like really cost effective to avoid overcommitting over long periods of time inside of your business, which eventually will burn you out if you are overcommitted. Number five, which is really important, cash, obviously, how you can master forecasting and cash flow like an 8-figure business. So you'll learn how to build a rolling budget and a cash buffer, 10 to 20% revenue set aside, so you can then predict income, hire wisely as well, and handle any surprises along the way. And number six, how to shift operations from reactive to proactive, right? How to implement repeatable processes, metrics, and tools so growth feels manageable and scalable, not chaotic. So if currently your revenue swings, that probably is happening because you don't have enough systems and structure inside of your business. Because revenue swings are not happening because your market is punishing you or because your market disappeared. They're happening because your structure is really weak currently. And the weakness happens when you don't have enough standardization currently in your delivery, you don't have enough standardization in your decision making and your process of how you make decisions, you don't have enough standardization in your actual demand as well. Because what I see usually at this stage is a lot of founders, how they get demand in would be, hey, we need to post more, we need to do more DMs, I also need to like hustle more the setters that I currently have, and then let's also do some emails. And so yes, you maybe have different type of channels collected all together that are responsible for driving the revenue in, which is maybe 25, 35, or maybe even all the way to 40. But that's also the biggest weakness currently inside of your business, because you don't have one standardized actual channel that consistently can give you predictability of predictable number of revenue every single month, right? And that really means you currently have a weak structure. Also, your hiring process maybe, right? How you hire people. Maybe you hire somebody because you're in desperation and you are really stressed out and you're like, hey, I need somebody, right? And so this is all is happening because you really have weak structures. At 20 to 50K per month, most agencies don't stall because of actual demand. They stall because delivery and execution are really fragile. And here's what that actually means. Every time you add a client, something breaks, right? It's either onboarding gets messy, responsibilities are unclear, tasks slip, and deadlines move. And I'm gonna tell you why this happens, right? Because then growth also feels heavy. Sometimes we really want to go out and we want to hire somebody, but we don't have the right process to actually train that person. And so yes, you maybe have some process that you can train them on, but you don't really have step-by-step clear process because you don't have nothing documented currently inside of your business. And because you have nothing documented inside of your business, you don't have a process. And because you don't have a process, you can't standardize the delivery. And because you can't standardize, you also can't train somebody. And so what ends up happening most times, somebody comes inside and they come with all the questions to you. And so what ends up happening, you have now more work on certain of your shoulders because now, like, you before used to just do it without thinking because you know exactly what you're doing. Now you have somebody that comes to you and asks questions, right? And so sometimes that even adds more stress. And if you see you have all the time the same questions being asked to you, like, and there's no process or no systems installed in that process, like that's really currently a problem, right? And that's why also growth really feels heavy. So what do most founders do? They push marketing harder. But you like, there's no way you can push marketing harder because your operations are really currently weak and they are broken. But you cannot out-market operational chaos also. If your backend is unstable, adding clients just exposes cracks faster. This is what creates the feast or famine cycle. 1 month feels really strong. It's like, okay, we got this. Like we are together. We are locked in, right? Next month, you're stressed about actual payroll. Like, hey, like how am I going to pay the payroll this month? It's like, it's not that it's bad luck, market is punishing you, or maybe it's not your month. Like you have currently missing systems inside of your business, and that's what you really need to currently understand. And this is why this video is really important for you to watch till the end so you can actually fix that, right? So let's break down the real structural problems. You have too much revenue from too few clients. Okay, that's another big one. I spoke to the founder one time. We looked at the actual pipeline. And I was like, hey, how come you have, I said, like, let's say there's 100% of pie, and out of the pie, 2 clients of yours are like responsible for 70% of revenue of that pie. How come, right? So that means if most of your revenue comes from referrals or few big clients, losing one creates a huge drop. And that's a volatility by actual design. You don't have a pipeline, you have actually luck. And a big problem with this is this, like if you have few referrals, because a lot of my clients that come in, they would have referrals. And some clients, yes, some clients would pay them more for some things, but usually it's referrals. And the question is, what happens if referrals stop? Like, because you don't have, like, referrals is not it's not a system. Referrals is somebody that gives you the clients. But what happens if that suddenly disappears? Can you save your business? Do you have a predictable incoming engine that is predictably bringing leads inside? And if the answer is no, then that means that's a big flaw currently inside of your business. The second one is no clear pipeline visibility. A lot of founders track deals in their actual head or scattered spreadsheets. Like, I remember I had a client came in and I said, hey, let's have a look at your actual pipeline. I want to look at this CRM and see what the actual pipeline value is, and then we can get a better understanding. And he opened it and said, hey, I have a couple spreadsheets that I need to put together. Is that okay if I show you, like, we can just go through all of them? I said, yeah, obviously. First of all, big problem, they're not were tracked correctly. Most of them had like name, then they had an email, and then like when they had a call, and if it's a sale, that's about it. Okay, like, do they need a follow-up? Is it like, what is the follow-up? Why are you following up? Like, there was not enough details. Like, what stage is it? What price was offered? Was it closed? Why was it not closed? There's not enough. So because there's a lot of details, we can have really a better understanding of what the pipeline value actually is. Another big thing is, we looked at the calendar, asked him to open a calendar because I just wanted to understand a couple of things. He opened the calendar. What I saw on the calendar and what I actually saw on the pipeline was 2 different things, because it was like, hey, most of the leads you haven't tracked. And it was like, yeah, because some of those leads didn't show up, so I didn't want to track them. I was like, okay. And so some leads actually did show up, and what about them? You didn't track? It was like, yeah, well, I kind of jumped on a call and I tried to close them because I didn't close them. They were not so valuable. Most of the leads that I tracked was people that like I felt like I had a good connection, like, and I could get it in. And I was like, okay, that's a big problem because you're leaving a lot of money on actual table by not following up and not educating, not nurturing them, and not putting them inside of your business. That's also a big problem, right? And so this is what I mean. A lot of founders currently have a problem with actually tracking their business correctly to understand what is happening, what's not happening. And sometimes I had even a founder that I said, hey, can I look at your CRM? He was like, hey, is that okay if I give that in a day? And I was like, well, you need a day to give me a CRM. He's like, because what I will do, I will probably need to spend all day going through my calendar and then putting them on the CRM. And then I asked a simple question. I said, like, how are you going to remember exactly word from word what was said on those calls, if you needed to follow up with them, what was offered, what was not offered, how are you going to remember? Because you said you have about 30 calls a month. And it was like, hey, I will not remember, but I will just try to put them all in. I was like, that's a real problem because we're not really clear on what the pipeline actually looks. So there's no visibility. Without visibility, we're just walking in the dark, right? So do you know your win rate? How many active opportunities do you have and when deals are likely to actually close? Do you know when deals are more likely to close? Like, do you have color coded? Is there certain notes that you have added? If you don't know this, like, that's also a big currently problem, okay? So when pipeline dries up, you realize it's too late. That's why revenue dips like feel sudden. They're not sudden. You are just like not measuring, you're not tracking, you're not doing enough to kind of forecast them, saying, hey, we're kind of drying up currently. If we don't do anything in the next month, we're going to be totally dried. We need to carry it. And that will automatically tell you, like, okay, so currently we need to be more on actual bringing in more leads. Most of the times what happens is the founder goes through the calendar, not tracking. It's kind of like, oh, suddenly, oh my God, like, my business just stopped overnight, like the market and everything. No, it's not the market. It's nothing to do with the market. It's to do that you never actually tracked. And so because you didn't track anything, there was no visibility. You couldn't forecast of saying, hey, we really need to go heavy of getting more leads in because we're kind of drawing up here, okay? So another big problem is that you are the only closer inside of your business. If you close every deal yourself, revenue depends on your actual calendar. When you are busy delivering sales, it's low. And I'm going to give you a good example. I had a founder come in. He was responsible for closing and delivering. He had a VA though. VA wasn't doing the delivery part. He was like mostly communication, doing communication. But what happened was this. He would kind of go out, try to get many leads as he can, right? Then he would get them on the call, he would close, and then he would deliver. Every time he delivered, his front end, which means like his demand, dried all the way out. They just dried out. And what ended up happening was like then, once the clients were kind of mostly like almost fulfilled, he didn't need to jump back on. And so some months he would be like 25K, and then some months he'd be like 5K, and then some months he would be like zero. And then again 25K. And so what happens is he's spending like 100% on delivery and then 100% on sales. And this is the biggest problem currently I see with a lot of founders is that your revenue is kind of scaled to how much time you can give, like you're scaling your energy, right? So if you close every deal yourself, revenue depends on your calendar. When you're busy delivering, sales will actually slow as well. When sales slow, pipeline dries up as well. 3 months later, revenue drops and it's already too late, right? It's delayed pain. And because you don't act too fast on it and you can act like, for example, we look at a pipeline and you're like, hey, in the next month, if I don't do anything, we will kind of dry up. And then you can take that action because you don't have visibility and you probably spend most of your time on sales and then on delivery, then obviously you will have dry season on sales, okay? For this not to happen, I would strongly suggest that you get a closer or you get somebody that will bring in leads consistently and then you can add them to actual waiting list. You can add them to a waiting list and then you can dip your hands into the waiting list and get more clients consistently. So that means even when you can't speak to them, you can add them to the actual waiting list. So number 4, marketing turns on and off, right? This is really common. When busy, you kind of stop marketing because you're kind of in fulfillment mode, you're doing tasks and so on. When revenue dips, you panic and then you kind of restart, you go all out. You're like, hey, let's post, let's do more posts, let's do more messaging, let's get more emails. I need to follow up, like I need to see with the clients on the pipeline, like who I didn't follow up, let me follow up with them. And it's like kind of all action, right? But marketing has a lag, right? Leads you generate today turn into revenue 30, 90 days later. Inconsistencies guarantees dry actual seasons inside of your actual sales cycle as well. Okay, so you need to think about there's cycles that your clients go. There's sometimes if you're running ads, you have couple things happening. Yes, you have some leads come in and then you can close them immediately, but some leads you can close immediately. Okay, some leads will be closed in the next 30 days. Some leads will be closed in the next 2 weeks. Some leads will be closed in the next 3 weeks. Every single lead has a different completely closing cycle. But what you need to realize is you cannot let your sales, like your kind of sales season to dry up. Your sales season needs to be kind of get on every single day, every single month, every single year. Even if you are too busy on delivery, you still need to consistently bring in more leads. So every time when you can switch from like delivery to sales, you can consistently bring in sales in. What happens is most founders go on delivery, they come back to sales and sales already dried up. And now they need to kind of, again, they're starting from square one. Okay. Number 5, no recording revenue. Okay, if you rely on one-off projects, income comes in actual chunks. So, example, if you close 50K 2-month project, you need multiple leads constantly just to stay actual flat as well. You miss one deal, revenue swings hard. Retainers like smooth cash flow. Projects create spikes as well because what happens is sometimes you may work on actual different projects and those projects take a lot of time as well. They take different type of delivery, they take more time commitment, they take more strategizing, they take more like kind of chunks. So what happens is, because let's say I take 2 projects, like let's say I take 3 projects, each project will take me like about 3 to 4 months to fulfill. Each one of them paid me 15K, right? So you're sitting on 45K, right? But that 45K is now spread over 3 months. It's not like, hey, this month I generated 35, I generated 45K. No, you generated 45K over 3 months. That's what it is, because for those 3 months, you're probably going to be busy and you can bring in more leads, okay? So I want to talk to you about something that's really uncomfortable, right? Your mindset at this stage, because like structure and psychology are connected, we need to also look at these things because these are really important, because when these things happen, a lot of your emotional and psychological triggers kick in as well. So the founder stage you are in, let's say at 20 to 50K, most founders feel stretched, right? Slightly anxious about cash, always behind and responsible for everything. So that means you are juggling tools, putting out fires, you feel like you are working really hard, but growth really still feels fragile. And that's not a motivational problem, that's a system flaw currently inside of your business. Memory is also now strategy, because like you can say, well, I kind of need to remember who I need to follow up with, or I need to remember like what we spoke with one of my clients on the call last week, and then you're kind of trying to remember, or you wake up and you say, well, what I need to do today, I think most important I need to do I need to fulfill my clients and then I will be on sales. You can't do that, because what's that happening is you're acting from a place of actual emotions, and emotions will not help you to scale. You need to come from a place of certainty. So you need to prioritize your tasks as well. So you need to look at like, hey, which are the most important tasks that I need to be done today to move the business forward, and also to make sure that my clients keep moving forward as well. Because if you just jump on and be like, hey, let me fulfill clients, and then they carry you, and then there is too much weight to carry on the fulfillment, and then you spend mostly all of your time actually fulfilling. And that becomes a problem as well, okay? So that means you currently have a system problem. Memory is not a strategy as well. You cannot scale from your actual head. You need external actual structures. So let's fix that now. I want to kind of start with the actual demand side. Revenue stability starts with predictable demand, right? Here's the simple rule. Never turn marketing off, right? I already mentioned that. Marketing is like consistently on, forever on. You can have a waiting list. You can add them to your like a lower tier before you can upsell them. You can say, hey, I have this free course, then I need you to go in. Like you can go in the free course, and then you can you have all these people in the free course, and you can use them then to sell them to your service or sell them to your next thing, which is the high ticket, right? But you consistently need to be driving marketing in. Marketing has to be consistently happening, either to the opt-in page, either you are driving them on a call, right? Or either you are adding them to an actual waiting list where later on you can use maybe a setter and he will reach out, nurture them and get them on a call, and then you can close them. But marketing is never switched off, okay? Never turn off marketing, ever, ever. Even when you are busy, because if you stop, your future revenue also will stop. marketing is something that brings in not only revenue this month, but it's also bringing revenue in next month. But the most important thing about marketing is that as marketing itself, it's a tool that scales your revenue. Okay. So think about this. Marketing is not only needed for us to make sure that we have money coming in now. We need it for money to be coming in next month, the next month after that, and the next month after that. But the beauty with this is once your marketing picks up momentum, it's really easy to fulfill a lot of months. So once already your marketing has momentum, you shouldn't stop, because then you break the cycle of momentum and you start from square one again. Okay. So if your revenue target is 50K per month, and your win rate, let's say, is 25%, which is kind of normal, you need 200K in active actual pipeline. And that's not a theory, that's the actual math behind it, okay? So if you are only like, let's say your win rate is 25% and your revenue target is 50K per month, you need to have 200K in active pipeline. If you don't know that number, you are guessing. So you need to have, like, depending on your win rate, depending on the revenue target, depending on the actual pipeline, depending on the leads, you need to know how much actual active pipeline you actually need, okay? So, and what happens is most of you start guessing, and the guessing is what creates the actual volatility, right? You need to track leads, deal stage. So that deal stage, where is, like, is that like at the beginning where they came on the call? Is it like, are you finalizing the agreement? Are there follow-ups, right? So your deal stage is really important, then source, and then win rate as well, right? And one important thing that I want to say, if you currently have hard time at tracking your CRM and your pipeline, and you're like, hey, but I really keep forgetting. You don't need to do it every single day. You can do it weekly. You can review your pipeline weekly. You can take all the calls, everything that happened, take notes down, and then put everything on a spreadsheet, right? Put everything on a spreadsheet, and you can do it weekly, and you can also review and look at, like, what stages are, what needs to happen. And then you can also say, hey, I need to do more follow-ups with this client. I need to do more follow-ups on that client, okay? And that should be no exception, because that's what really needs to currently happen in order for you to really scale your company as well, okay? That alone will also remove half of revenue swings inside of your business, because you have something tangible that you actually can look at. So delivery capacity, where most agencies actually break. And this is the biggest thing that I see with a lot of agencies and consultants and also coaches and also a lot of service businesses, is the problem with delivery. So if your team is operating at 95 to 100% capacity, you're really fragile. You have no buffer. All it takes is one churn, one delay, and one team issue, and margins collapse. You should aim for 70 to 80% of utilization. Why? Because you need room for revisions, training, sales, and expected work. So this means, say if you have 95 to 100% capacity currently, and your team is operating at that, your business is super fragile. You can't train them, you can't improve them, you can't also bring in more sales because they're already kind of flat out. And then if they need anything else, let's say you maybe have another task that they need to manage, they can, because they're already 95 to 100% capacity. They're just full flat out, right? So that's a big problem currently. So if you run at 100%, then growth is really currently really stressful for you, because that means nobody has time to do anything else than just fulfill your clients and do all the tasks that's required. So then there's no revision time, there's no training, no reviews, how you can improve. There's nothing happening. So you need to have them somewhere at 70, 80%. Most companies have them at 60 to 70, which is a really good growth rate as well, which means you can put more trainings in, you can review what's happening in the business, you can go through different stages, you can also have team meetings where you can all improve as well and capitalize on each other ideas as well, okay? So you need to track total available hours, billable actual hours, utilization percentage, and then margins per client as well. Even a spreadsheet works. Like, I don't care what do you do here. You can even have a simple spreadsheet on, like, a Google spreadsheet, an Excel sheet. That's fine as well, okay? Visibility will also give you that control. Like, like you need to understand this. Currently, nothing is working in the business so good as you wanted is because nothing is tangible. Everything's probably living inside of your head, and you probably say, hey, I know that, I know that, I know that, I know I need to do that. But most of the things you know are living just inside of your head. So you need to put them on actual paper, you need to put them on actual spreadsheets, you need to look at them, because looking at them, you exactly will understand what the data is actually telling you. So every time when you need to do something, you will not ask yourself what to do, you will say, hey, what does the data tell me to do today, okay? Then next one is financial stability, where panic actually comes from. Most agencies at this stage don't forecast 90 days ahead, they don't track burn rate, and they don't keep up 2 months of expenses saved as well, okay? So when revenue drops 20%, it feels like actual collapse, even though it's normal variance. So you need rolling 90-day forecast, cash buffer, at least 2 months operating expenses, and monthly reviews of forecast versus actual. Without that, small dips feel really catastrophic, and with it, dips feel manageable as well. You really need to know how fast you go through cash. You really need to need to look at your sales cycle, and then you need to also have a forecast for the next 90 days ahead, depending on the actual pipeline. But obviously, as your pipeline dries up, there's not much predictability. So all of this needs to happen in order for you to really scale your business. You need to forecast how much money is coming in, how much money will be coming in, what is in the actual pipeline as well. And then you also need to leave yourself cash buffer in case a surprise comes along. And let's say you have a dry season, you have the next month really dry. And then what happens is, instead of you owning money, that you have money to kind of leverage out as well, okay? And then obviously monthly reviews of forecast versus actual what's currently happening, and the forecast as well, okay? So the real shift, reactive agency, markets when suddenly you are desperate, you start to market. When sales dry up, then you start to market and start to do these actions. This is really reactive. Or hires when you are really overwhelmed. Like I said at the beginning, most agencies then will start to hire somebody when they're really like kind of stressed out, okay? Or fixes problems after they really explode. So this is all reactive, and that shouldn't happen. It all should be strategic, right? Engineered. So an engineered agency would track pipeline weekly, cap on actual utilization, builds buffer before actual growth, and installs systems before adding more volume inside the business. And that's the difference, right? And a 20K to 50K revenue swings are not market problems. They are maturity problems, and you need to understand that. So why 20 to 50K is structurally volatile? This range is really dangerous because you have some demand, some team, and some systems, but not enough to kind of go heavy and kind of scale. So at 20 to 50K, you are still the primary closer. You are still involved in delivery. You still make most decisions. Marketing turns off when you are actually busy because you kind of catching your own tail. Pipeline visibility is really weak as well, and this creates what I call the operator dependency loop. So this means more clients, less time, marketing slows, pipeline dries, revenue dips, panic, pushing sales again, and repeat. And you're consistently catching your own tail, okay? It's not random, it's really an engineered chaos. So the 3 core structural gaps. Number 1 is the pipeline instability. Most agencies at this level do not know their win rate, which we already talked about. You should know your win rate, required pipeline size, deal cycle length as well, and lead source actual conversion. And here's the math. If you want 50K, we already spoke about this. If you want 50K a month and your average deal is 5K and your win rate is 25%, you need 40 opportunities per month, 10 closed deals, and a 200K pipeline value, okay? 5K by 40, 200K pipeline value. Most founders are operating blindly because they don't even know how many opportunities they actually need to get to 50K, because how you get to 50K is you really calculate also your win rate, okay? So number 2, delivery bandwidth misalignment, okay? At 30 to 40K, founders often operate at 90 to 100% utilization, and there is no buffer. Then one client churns, one team member struggles, and one project overruns. Margins collapse, and what should happen at this stage? You should really feel control, actually. You should really feel measure and aware of actual capacity, so how many clients you actually can take in, and calm during actual growth of your business as well. What you currently feel is reactive, tight on time, always catching up, and slightly anxious about actual cash. And that gap is really structural, and the problem is you currently don't have any systems. And then obviously we spoke about them. You need to have the financial shock observer. Okay, most agencies here don't forecast for 90 days because they don't have a tracked actual pipeline, they don't track burn rate, and then don't maintain 2-month operating reserve. So when revenue drops to 20%, it feels like it will actually collapse, even though it's normal variance, right? Without cash buffer, variance feels like a life threat. But this is why it's important that you have your pipeline, and you can look at your pipeline, and then you can really tell what is your pipeline currently telling you, right? Is your pipeline telling you that it will dry up in the next month and we really should start to gas on the marketing, but which means like you don't switch off marketing at all, but you just can increase the marketing, okay? And it also will tell you how much money is also left and how much money you need, all your expenses and everything. So like it's really important to have these financial spreadsheets inside of your business so you can look at them and then you know exactly what's happening, okay? So what this stage is supposed to feel like: 20-30K, heavy, founder dependent and high stress. 30-40, transitional, needs systems and requires discipline. 40-50 should feel stable, should feel measurable, should feel predictable. If it still feels chaotic at 40K, you don't have a revenue problem, you really currently have system problems. So the stabilization framework. Here's a structure that you can actually fix volatility. Step 1, install pipeline math, okay? Required pipeline value, win rate, deal cycle, and source conversion. Tools for this you can use like is Hotspot, Pipedrive, Close CRM, and simple Google Sheet, or also go high level, okay? And then you have to review it weekly. Step 2, capacity dashboard, right? Total delivery hours, available hours, utilization percentage, and gross margin per client. Keep utilization under 80% at the start. It's really great. If you are 95%, you're really fragile currently. Tools you can use here, I would use ClickUp, but you can use also Monday. If you have no currently you don't want to invest too heavy, you can also use Google Sheets. But you also have Notion, Float, and Monday.com. Monday.com is not bad. I would use ClickUp because it's just better. Step 3, financial forecast model, right? Build a rolling 90-day forecast so you can track committed revenue, probable revenue, expenses, burn rate, and reserve runway. Minimum 2 months operating buffer should be inside of your business for any surprises, right? No buffer means emotional instability. And then step 4 is separate roles, right? At 20-50K, you must separate sales, delivery, and operations. You can't be doing sales, you can't be doing delivery, and then you can't be also doing operations. You need to be, either you are entirely designing systems and helping your business grow in that way, or let's say you say, hey, I'm going to do just operations and I'm going to have somebody at sales, or you could say, hey, I'm going to do sales. And then you have somebody else to do sales as well, but you can't do everything. Even if you are still involved, you need to define them and you need to have structure and standardization. Like you can't just free flow on a sales call because that's really dangerous at 20-50K. You already need to have processes inside. You need to have frameworks, you need to have standardization so you can actually, when somebody joins, you can give them and they can be stepping into the actual process. Same goes for delivery and same goes for operations, right? So client story. I had an agency at 35K a month came in and their revenue always were kind of swinging between 28K and 44K. The problem was this, right? I would say she had founder closing, like she was closing every freaking deal. She had no pipeline tracking because when I said, hey, can we kind of look at your pipeline? She said to me, we can look at it, but what I want to tell you before we look at it, I have some of the things written down on some papers on my desk, and I have some things that I actually have in my actual Google Drive. And so I said, hey, do you have all them at one place and do they all look the same? She was like, no, I just sometimes write down the things that I need to remember. So they would write down name, when was the call, and how much time she actually spent on the call, just to know like if she's actually in the frame, because she had a lot of calls booked in between, so she wanted to know if she can actually be in 45 minutes. And then she was writing down if she was closed or not closed, or she would need to follow up. That's it. And I was like, that's the biggest problem why you currently have dry seasons and why your revenue is really inconsistent. Because everything was living on piece of papers and each piece of paper looked totally different. And then I said, hey, how long is it going to take you to put it all together in an actual pipeline or a CRM so we can actually have a look? She said, well, I have to find all the other papers because they are somewhere either here or at my home. And that's a big problem because most of it actually lives inside of a head, right? So no pipeline tracking, delivery overbooked as well, and no forecasting because you couldn't forecast because there's no pipeline. There's like scattered all over the place. So we installed Pipeline Math Tracker, 80% utilization cap, weekly ops review, and 60-day cash buffer, right? Results. Revenue stabilized between 38 to 45K for 4 months straight, and then we scaled to 62K. Stability comes before actual scale. So that's why it's really important to have all the right systems if you really want to scale, okay? So proactive versus reactive and how you can change your habits. Finally, the mindset shift stop. Chasing your tail has to also stop because here's an actionable steps you can actually use in order for this not to happen. So schedule system building blocks. Block out 1 to 2 hours per week, right? This is your operation hours to document processes, review metrics, and improve an actual tool that you currently are using. It's hard, but like Stephanie Connor notes, even when 1 hour per week yields 52 hours of systems work per year, okay? And then the next one is simplify your offers. If you say yes to every niche or every request, complexity grows really faster than revenue. So define clear ideal client profile and failure profile. Okay, it's really important. Really important because a lot of agencies at scale, they take anybody, but you need to understand some of your clients have higher risk ratio than other clients. Some clients are much easier to fulfill than other clients. Some clients have like if you have a guarantee, some clients like that you give your guarantee are more likely to take that guarantee than other clients. So you need to know who's your ideal client and who's your failure profile. Who you don't serve also is really important to understand, not just who you want to serve. And then package service into few predictable actual offerings. This reduces custom work and makes delivery repeatable as well. And obviously document the thing as well. And then stop the hero routine as well. Delegate ruthlessly. But when you are delegating, don't come from a place of delegating because you're desperate or actually stressed, right? If you are booked full, ask which tasks only you can do and hand off the actual rest. Like some things inside of your business, you are really good at doing and only you will be capable of doing them, right? But some tasks that you would say that others can do, then you just need to delegate them, okay? Trust your team by creating training actual docs as well. And this comes to the process of how well your business is documented. If you don't have a lot of documentation inside of your business, you don't really have the right processes that you can actually train people. And that's also a problem, okay? So Jeannie Dietrich from LinkedIn, right? She advises systems enable happy teams and happier clients. So the systems go again, documentation, systemization around what the process looks like, and then standardization. So that means one simple process that you can take anybody through and they will understand how to do it, okay? And then constant marketing schedule. Automate social posts, schedule email campaigns, or hire assistant so that even during busy months, the marketing engine is on cruise control. Because you cannot, like I already mentioned this, don't switch it off, okay? And then financial checkpoints. Each month, treat it like a mini audit. Was your forecast off? Why? Do you have 10% revenue in reserve? And adjust immediately to that as well. And over time, these habits move you out of crisis mode as well. And as one founder learned after installing simple systems, she actually doubled income while working fewer hours. Like we did so many things for a lot of clients as well. You need to understand the biggest leverage you can have in any business is to have an actual system inside, okay? And then following the process of the system. So shift from reactive to actually engineered. Reactive agency markets when they are desperate, they hire when they are desperate, they look for like people, they hire when they're overwhelmed, and they fix only when things are broken. If you really want to be an engineer inside your business and like an architect, then you need to track before actually problems show up. You need to have weekly reviews, build actual buffers inside the business that helps you to actually navigate even when the storms are there, and install systems before actually growth, okay? So a couple examples for perspective as well. A case study, we worked with an actual founder. We worked with an agency where the owner was the only decision maker on every single project. After 6 months of process coaching, he restructured the rules so tasks were actually delegated. And what we did was, he was the main person doing all the projects. And the reason he was doing the projects because he strongly believed that he's the only person that can do them at the highest level ever, okay? And this was the biggest problem, because he was really scared to delegate also, because he didn't believe that anybody could be, I would say, he didn't believe that they would have the capacity to deliver the results in a way that he was delivering. And so I asked him a question, and what makes you think that it cannot be done? Because he's like, hey, I haven't seen that being done. Like when I get people and I ask them how would they do it, and they just, the answers that they give me, like it just shows me that they cannot do it. And I was like, hey, do you have a process for doing it? He was like, no. I said, have you ever thought about having the process and explaining how you want to do it? And he's like, no. I said, why not? He's like, I never thought about it. And I said, that's your biggest leverage. If you have a process of how you exactly want somebody to do the tasks, then you go on and you install that process and you document step by step of how you exactly fulfill that project or what you do in that project. And that helps you to better understand how to also train the person. And so when the training will happen, you will understand how well you have actually explained that process, because that person consuming your process will show you what they actually learned from that process by delivering to that client. And I said, and then based on the quality of results, you can also improve the way you actually train people. And just by that, by month 3, his revenue was up 80%, and by month 6, it was 150% higher, with him no longer being the actual bottleneck and trying to fulfill every single client himself. So he literally worked less while growing faster as well. And I think this is a problem with a lot of agencies out there, is that they are doing all the projects and all the delivery by themselves. Like as a founder, you need to buy the time back. And the way you do it is by delegating. But in order for you to delegate, you can't just delegate and give somebody stress. You need to create processes, right? And those processes are starting with the first step. What happens after somebody paid you? What is the next step that you do? And then how well do you do that step? And what are like some rules maybe in those next steps? What needs to happen in those next steps? How do I need to think about it? So all of that can be delegated, but your training process has to be really in detail as well. So when somebody comes in, they can go full hands-on, right? So we also took it from zero to systems as well. Another consultant who struggled with 20K months started using the pipeline math framework, right? Realizing she needed 150 inactive actual proposals each month, she built a simple spreadsheet to track incoming leads by source, right? She also locked in 15% of revenue into actual reserve monthly. Within a year, her revenue swing shrank to 5%, right? I would say 3 to 5%. And cash flow stress also disappeared, okay? Again, by having simple frameworks, there's nothing much like, one thing I can tell you is like a lot of people think that magic has to happen inside the business for business to be stable. No, simple spreadsheets can help you to do a lot of things as well, okay? Simple spreadsheet of just your sales pipeline, like what's happening currently in your sales, like, right? Even that, like just looking by that one, like let's say having just one spreadsheet. Let's say you forgot all the other ones and you just had one, you already will improve the process so much. If you have another one, financial spreadsheet, that increases the process better. So the more these spreadsheets you have about each process, the better you will understand. About your team, you can understand the working hours, the billable hours, the utilization percentage, like how many people are actually, how much percentage they're actually utilizing inside of your business, right? All of that will give you a better perspective of who can be trained, who cannot be trained, where do we need to step down, what we need to improve as well, okay? And so your 20K to 50K blueprint. In summary, the number one fix is actual structure. Demand and talent aren't usually the problem. It's how you handle growth itself. By creating predictable sales pipelines, clear delivery systems, and financial buffers, you turn peaks and valleys into steady actual climb inside of your business. Your feelings will also shift. Instead of anxious, reactive, always looking and being desperate to do something just because like things are breaking, you will then step into actual control and confident and actually scaling as well, because you have the right systems. Okay. And most importantly, remember the 6 key takeaways at the actual start. Use the provided, I didn't provide you the worksheets, but what I will do is I will attach them down below, a couple of actual worksheets that you can use inside of your business. So there will be a link in the actual description. You can actually use those worksheets, because I didn't want to explain them on this video because it will really take long, but I will attach them simply with instructions in the actual description as well, so you can actually use them really simply as well. So with that being said, if your revenue swings 20 to 30% month to month, that's not a demand, that's a structural immaturity, right? Revenue swings at 20 to 50K are not market problems. They are because you don't have systems currently inside of your business. You don't need more leads. You need visibility, forecasting, capacity planning, and system discipline. If you really enjoyed this video, like it, comment down below if there's anything else I can add value on top of that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, because you're going to help me with algorithm. But not only with algorithm, you're going to get more content like this that is going to help you to really fix the problems inside of your business, and it will help you to actually scale your business.